The chains of shame. The ruins of Vera 9 were silent, broken buildings standing like graves of a forgotten world, the sky painted gray with smoke and ash. Once it was a proud alien colony, but years of war had turned it into a graveyard. Among the shattered streets, a group of survivors huddled in fear, their eyes hollow, their bodies scarred. They were mostly women, taken and used as breeding stock by cruel masters. Among them sat Leora, a young alien girl with pale skin marked by old chains. Her eyes were empty, her spirit crushed. She whispered words again and again, words that had become her prayer and curse. I am not worth breeding, bury me here. The other captives ignored her. To them, she was useless, broken, not able to give life. In their twisted society, a woman who could not breed had no value. Even in slavery, she was rejected. The ground shook suddenly. A deep rumble spread through. The ruins and the survivors trembled. Some thought their captors had returned, but it was not the enemy. It was something different, something powerful. Out of the smoke, a team of armored figures appeared, their suits glowing with blue lights, weapons ready. They were humans, soldiers of Earth's expeditionary forces. After years of chasing down alien warlords, they had finally reached this dark place. The leader removed his helmet. His name was Captain Elias Ward, a man with sharp eyes but a calm face. He looked at the survivors with something they had not seen in years: compassion. "We are here to take you home," Elias said, his voice steady, carrying both command and warmth. The alien survivors gasped, unsure if this was another cruel trick. But when one of the soldiers gave water and food, they realized this was real. They were being saved. But Leora did not move. She kept her head low, whispering the same words. "I am not worth breeding. Bury me here." One of the human soldiers frowned. "Captain, this one, she refuses to move. Maybe we should leave her." Elias walked closer, kneeling before Leora. She flinched, expecting pain, expecting chains. Instead, he spoke softly. "Why do you want to be left here?" She raised her hollow eyes, her voice broken. "I cannot breed. I am useless. Even my own people reject me. I am not worth saving." Elias studied her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "Your worth is not decided by monsters. You breathe. You fight to live. That is enough." The other survivors laughed bitterly. "She is cursed human. She cannot carry life. Leave her to die." But Elias ignored them. He extended his hand. "Stand. You are coming with us." For a moment, Leora hesitated. Her mind screamed she was worthless. But something in his eyes, something different from the cruelty she had always known, made her hand tremble. Slowly, she touched his hand. His grip was strong, steady, like a promise. As the humans led the survivors through the ruined streets, shadows stirred. Far away, alien overseers had detected the rescue. Their ships were moving. The hunters would not let their breeding stock go without a fight. The group moved fast, guided by human scanners. Elias stayed near Leora, watching her carefully. She struggled to keep up, her body weak from years of captivity. Twice she fell, and twice Elias lifted her, never letting her stay behind. "Why?" she asked weakly as they crossed a broken bridge. "Why do you not leave me?" Elias looked at her with steady eyes. "Because you are not useless, you are alive, and that is enough to fight for." His words struck her deeper than chains ever had. For the first time, she felt a spark, something fragile inside her chest, a question. What if he is right? But before she could think further, the sky split with light. Alien warships descended, engines screaming, weapons glowing. The survivors screamed, panic rising. The hunt had begun. "Contact!" a human soldier shouted. "They've found us!" Elias tightened his grip on his rifle, his jaw set. "Keep moving, protect the survivors." The ruins shook as plasma fire rained down, buildings collapsing. Dust filled the air, screams echoed, and chaos erupted. In the madness, Leora stumbled again. She looked up at the falling fire and whispered to herself, Maybe I should have been buried. But then Elias shielded her with his own body, pulling her close as debris rained around them. He looked into her eyes and shouted over the roar of destruction. Not today. You will not die here, not while I breathe. For the first time in years, her heart pounded with something other than fear. The chase had begun, and Leora, the girl who once begged to be buried, was now tied to the fate of humanity. A fragile spark, the night was burning. Alien warships tore the sky apart, their red lights flashing over the ruins of Vera 9. The human soldiers moved quickly, guiding the survivors through dark alleys and broken tunnels. Plasma fire shook the ground, echoing like thunder. Leora stumbled as she ran, her chain still clinking around her wrists. She was weak, too weak to keep pace. But Captain Elias Ward never left her side. Twice he pulled her up, each time more firmly than before. "Stay with me," he ordered, his voice sharp but steady. She shook her head, breathless. "Why do you waste your strength on me? I cannot give life. I am broken." Elias glanced at her, his jaw tight. "You are not broken, and I will not let you die." The survivors heard his words. Some sneered, others muttered in disgust. To them, she was cursed. Saving her was a mistake. But Elias ignored them all. His eyes never left her. The group finally reached a collapsed metro tunnel, dark and hollow. Inside, the humans lit faint blue lights, guiding everyone deeper underground. For a moment, there was silence, just the sound of frightened breathing. Leora sat against a cracked wall, shivering. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to be invisible. But Elias knelt in front of her again, scanning her with a small human device. The scanner beeped, its screen showing strange readings. Elias frowned. "Her body. It's different," he muttered. One of his soldiers, a medic, leaned closer. "Captain, she isn't barren, she was poisoned. Her system was altered by suppressants, it's reversible." Leora's eyes widened. What do you mean?" The medic looked at her gently. "They lied to you. They wanted you to believe you had no value, but your body was never broken." Her breath caught in her throat. All her years of shame, all her whispers of despair, they were built on a lie. She lowered her head, shaking. No, that cannot be true." Elias's voice was firm, almost like steel. "It is true, and that means you are worth more than you ever believed." Tears welled in her eyes, but before she could answer, the tunnel shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The sound of claws scraping against metal echoed from the darkness. The hunters had found them. Screeches pierced the silence as alien beasts, trained warhounds of their captors, rushed into the tunnel. Their eyes glowed, their jaws dripping acid. The survivors screamed. "Defensive line," Elias barked, raising his rifle. The humans formed a wall of firepower, blue plasma lighting up the tunnel. Beasts fell, their bodies burning. But more came. Leora froze. She pressed herself against the wall, whispering, "Bury me here. Bury me here." Her fear tried to swallow her whole. But then she saw Elias standing tall, firing without fear, shielding everyone with his presence. His armor burned from acid, his arms strained, but he never stepped back. Something shifted inside her chest. For the first time, she wanted to move. For the first time, she wanted to fight. When one of the beasts broke through the line and leapt at Elias, Leora screamed. Without thinking, she grabbed a broken pipe from the ground and slammed it into the creature's side. The beast shrieked, distracted just long enough for Elias to finish it with a shot. He turned, shocked to see her standing, trembling but alive, weapon still in her hands. "You saved me," Elias said, breathing heavily. Her eyes widened. I saved you?" "Yes," he said, his voice firm. "You are not worthless. You just proved it." For a heartbeat, she felt something she had not felt in years, a fragile spark of worth. The humans pushed forward, driving the beasts back, but the tunnel shook again. This time it was worse. A massive shadow appeared at the far end, glowing red eyes cutting through the dark. It was no beast. It was an armored alien overseer, larger than a human, wielding a blade of plasma. The survivors cried out in despair. "We cannot fight that. We are doomed." Elias stood firm, his rifle humming as it charged. "No, we hold this line. Humanity does not run." The overseer roared, the tunnel shaking with its fury. Sparks rained from broken lights. Leora's hands trembled as she gripped the broken pipe tighter. She looked at Elias, at his unshakable stance, and whispered to herself, "If he believes I am worth saving, then maybe I am." The battle was not over. It was only beginning. The hunter's shadow. The tunnel shook as the overseer stepped forward, its heavy armor scraping sparks from stone, its plasma blade burning like fire in the dark. The survivors pressed back in terror, whispering prayers, some already crying. Elias stood at the front, rifle raised, his boots planted firm on broken ground. His soldiers tightened formation, but even they looked uneasy. The overseer was no ordinary foe. It was bred for war, stronger and faster than most humans could handle. Leora gripped her broken pipe tighter. Her hands shook, her heart pounded, but her eyes refused to leave Elias. He had stood for her. He had called her worthy. For the first time, she wanted to prove him right. The overseer roared and charged, its footsteps like thunder. The tunnel walls cracked. Dust poured down. In that moment, Elias fired, his rifle glowing as blue plasma bolts slammed into the armored beast. Sparks flew, armor cracked, but the overseer did not stop. "Hold the line," Elias shouted. The humans unleashed a storm of fire. The tunnel became a river of light and smoke. But the overseer broke through, swinging its burning blade. One soldier was thrown across the tunnel, armor ripped apart. Another fell screaming. It was too strong. Elias met its blade with his rifle, the impact shaking his arms. Sparks exploded. The plasma burned through steel. Elias staggered, barely keeping his footing. "Captain," one soldier yelled, but Elias did not move back. He pressed forward, his jaw locked in defiance. Leora's chest burned. Fear told her to hide, to stay down like always. But something else screamed louder now, his words, his promise. "You are not worthless. You saved me." She moved before she could think. She grabbed a fallen soldier's pistol from the floor. The weapon was heavy in her hand, but she raised it, aimed at the overseer's glowing eyes, and pulled the trigger. The shot rang out, a flash of blue light cutting through the smoke. The overseer's head snapped back, its roar shaking the tunnel. It wasn't dead, but it was stunned. "Now!" Elias shouted, driving his rifle into the overseer's chest and firing point blank. Plasma burned through armor. The monster staggered, flames spilling from its wound. The survivors gasped. For the first time, the overseer looked uncertain. But the victory lasted only seconds. More screeches echoed in the tunnels. Shadows moved. Dozens of warhounds crawling walls, their jaws snapping. The overseer roared, summoning its pack. The humans tightened their line, exhaustion heavy in their breaths. They could not survive a swarm. Elias looked at his soldiers, then at the survivors, then at Leora. His voice was steady. "We move now, or none of us leave." The group ran deeper into the tunnels, guided by the glow of human lights. The walls closed tighter, the darkness pressing in. Every corner felt alive with danger. Every shadow was a hunter waiting. Leora stayed close to Elias, clutching the pistol, like her life. Her whispers had changed. No longer "bury me here." Now it was "don't let me fall, don't let me fail." Hours passed like minutes. Every step was fear. Every sound was a threat. Finally, the group reached an old service chamber, doors sealed with rust. Elias forced them open, guiding everyone inside. The humans set charges on the door to collapse the tunnel behind them. For a moment, there was silence. Breathing. Relief. Leora leaned against the wall, her hands trembling. Elias knelt in front of her again, scanning her with his medical device. Her body was still weak, her veins poisoned, but her eyes carried something new. You fought, Elias said softly. You stood when fear wanted you to fall. I thought I could not, she whispered. You can, he said firmly. You will. Her chest tightened, a strange warmth filling her. For the first time in years, she felt more than despair. She felt hope. But the moment was shattered. The scanner beeped suddenly, flashing red. Elias frowned. They've marked us. The Overseer's pack is tracking our heat signatures. They'll be here soon. The survivors groaned in terror. We cannot run anymore. We cannot fight them all. Elias's eyes hardened. Then we change the game. We hunt the hunter. Leora looked at him, her fear clashing with something deeper. You mean, you will fight it head on? He nodded slowly. The Overseer will never stop. If we don't kill it here, none of us leave alive. The survivors fell silent. The humans tightened their grips on their rifles, and Leora, for the first time, whispered not of death, but of defiance. I will stand with you. Elias met her gaze, and for the first time, he smiled faintly. Then we are not alone. Outside the broken doors, the shadows moved again, claws scraping closer. The Overseer's roar echoed like thunder, shaking stone. The hunter was coming, and this time, the prey was ready. The human promise. The broken service chamber echoed with the survivors' frightened breaths. The door trembled under the weight of claws scratching, the warhounds circling like wolves. Beyond them, the Overseer's roar shook the tunnels. It was coming. Captain Elias Ward stood tall, his rifle in his hands, his eyes steady. His soldiers prepared their weapons, silent and grim. They knew the fight ahead could kill them all. But retreat was no longer an option. Leora sat against the wall, her pistol clutched tight, her chest rising and falling in sharp breaths. She had never fought before. She had always believed herself useless, unworthy. But now she had stood against the Overseer. She had saved Elias once, and that truth burned in her like fire. Elias crouched beside her, scanning her vitals again. The small human device beeped, showing poison traces running through her blood. His jaw tightened. You've been drugged for years, he said. That's why you believed you were barren. They wanted you broken. Her eyes widened, her voice trembling. So, it was never me? No, Elias said firmly, locking eyes with her. It was never you. They made you believe a lie, but humans. He paused, placing a steady hand over hers. Humans can undo this. We can heal you. Her breath caught. Hope was a dangerous thing. She had lived too long without it. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, Do you promise? Elias's grip tightened. I promise you, as long as I live, you will have a future. The chamber shook again. Dust rained down. The survivors screamed as the metal doors bent inward, claws tearing through. Positions, Elias barked. The humans moved fast, forming a shield wall with their rifles, soldiers on one knee, others standing behind. The doors exploded inward. Warhounds poured through, glowing jaws snapping, eyes burning red. Fire! The tunnel filled with thunder. Plasma bolts lit the dark, tearing beasts apart. Screams and smoke filled the air. The survivors huddled, covering their ears, too afraid to move. One hound broke through and lunged at the nearest alien woman. Before Elias could move, Leora raised her pistol and fired. The beast collapsed at her feet, acid steaming from its jaws. The survivors gasped, staring at her in shock. The worthless one had struck down a beast. Her hands shook, but her eyes were steady. She whispered almost to herself, I am not broken. But then the ground shook harder. The Overseer forced its way inside, massive body squeezing through the broken doorway. Its armor glowed with heat, its plasma blade roaring like fire. The humans focused fire, but the Overseer raised a shield, deflecting every shot. It advanced, each step like a hammer strike. Elias rushed forward, rifle blazing. "Keep firing! Aim for the joints!" The overseer swung its blade. Elias barely dodged, the heat searing his armor. The blade cut through steel and stone, leaving fire in its path. The soldiers pressed the attack, but one by one they were thrown back by its power. The overseer grabbed a soldier and hurled him into a wall, his armor cracking. Another was knocked down, weapon ripped from his hands. The chamber filled with screams. Elias faced the beast head-on, his rifle nearly overheated, his body straining. He blocked another swing, sparks showering. The overseer roared, shoving him back. Leora's heart stopped. She saw Elias stagger, his chest plate glowing with heat. She screamed his name, but her voice drowned in the chaos. "No," she cried. Her legs moved on their own. She grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle, lifted it with trembling arms, and aimed at the overseer's burning shield. Her breath shook, her vision blurred. But she fired again and again. The shot slammed into the beast's joints. Sparks flew, the shield flickered. Elias saw the opening. With a roar, he charged, driving his rifle into the overseer's chest and unleashing a full burst. Plasma tore through armor. The overseer staggered, flames pouring from its wounds. But before Elias could finish it, the beast swung its blade one last time. The plasma cut through his shoulder armor, sending him crashing to the ground. Blood-stained. "The dust! Captain!" his soldiers shouted. Leora froze, her heart twisting in terror. She ran to him, kneeling beside his broken form. His face was pale, his breaths ragged, but his eyes still burned with fire. "Stay back," he coughed, gripping her wrist. "Do not let them take you." Tears blurred her vision. "You promised me a future. Do not leave me now." Elias managed a faint, pained smile. "I will not, if you stand." The overseer staggered again. Its armor cracked, its roars weaker now. But it was not dead. It raised its blade high, ready for the final strike. The soldiers tried to rise, their weapons empty, their bodies battered. The survivors screamed. Leora's trembling stopped. She looked at Elias, at his broken but unyielding gaze, and something inside her ignited. Her voice rose, not in despair, but in defiance. "I am not worthless, I am not broken, and I will not run." She stood lifting the rifle with both hands. She aimed straight at the overseer's burning chest, and with a scream that carried years of pain, she pulled the trigger. The shot pierced through the crack Elias had made. Plasma ripped inside, burning the overseer from within. Its roar shook the chamber one final time before it collapsed, flames devouring its body. Silence fell. The chamber stank of smoke and blood. The survivors stared in stunned disbelief. The monster was dead. And the one who killed it was the girl they had once called useless. Leora dropped the rifle, her chest heaving. She turned to Elias, tears streaming down her face. "You live," she whispered. "You must live. You promised." Elias, bleeding but alive, reached for her hand. His voice was weak but unshakable. "And I will keep that promise." From despair to destiny, the overseer's corpse burned in the ruined chamber, its plasma blade hissing out as flames devoured its armor. The air was thick with smoke, acid, and blood. For a moment there was silence, shocked, heavy silence. The survivors stared at the fallen monster, then at the fragile figure who stood shaking before it. Leora, the girl they once mocked as worthless, had slain the beast. She dropped the rifle. With trembling hands, her chest rising and falling like thunder. Tears streaked her cheeks, not of despair but of something new. Defiance. Life. Hope. Elias lay against the wall, wounded and pale, but his eyes never left her. Even as blood seeped through his armor, he managed a faint smile. "You stood," he whispered, voice weak but steady. "You proved them all wrong." Leora fell to her knees beside him, clutching his hand tightly. "You cannot leave me now. You promised me a future. You promised." His hand trembled as it closed around hers. "And I will keep that promise, if you believe in it too." The soldiers regrouped, tending to Elias with medical packs, while others sealed the chamber and prepared to move. The survivors were silent, their eyes fixed on Leora. Shame filled some of them, awe filled the rest. She killed the overseer, one whispered. The broken one. Another said softly. No, not broken anymore. For the first time, Leora was not the cursed, not the rejected. She was something else, something greater. But there was no time to celebrate. The scanners beeped again. More enemy signatures filled the tunnels, dozens, maybe hundreds, moving fast. The overseer was dead, but its army was still alive. We cannot hold them here, a soldier said grimly. We'll be buried alive. Elias, weak but conscious, pushed himself up. His voice carried steel even through the pain. Then we don't wait. We strike first. We move through them and reach the surface. The survivors gasped. To charge the hunters was suicide, but the humans stood firm. They had not come this far to die in the dark. Leora looked at Elias, then at the frightened faces around her. And in that moment she understood. This was her chance to lead. She rose to her feet, her voice strong for the first time. They made me believe I was worthless. They made all of you believe we had no power. But they were wrong. Tonight we fight, not as slaves, but as the living. Her words echoed in the chamber. The survivors, who once ignored her, now lifted their heads. Something stirred in their hollow eyes. A spark. Elias's lips curved faintly. Now she speaks, like a warrior. The march began. The humans led with rifles glowing, the survivors following behind, armed with whatever they could carry. Pipes, broken weapons, stones. The tunnels ahead blazed with red light as the enemy closed in. Warhounds howled. Soldiers with cruel armor raised their weapons. The swarm was waiting. Elias steadied his rifle. For Earth, he whispered. Leora tightened her grip on her pistol. For life, she answered, and together, they charged. The tunnels exploded into chaos. Blue plasma tore through red armor. Warhounds shrieked as survivors fought with desperate strength, no longer hiding, no longer begging. They struck with fury born of years in chains. Leora fought beside Elias, every shot steady, every move defiant. Once she had begged to be buried, now she refused to fall. Her courage pushed the others forward, her voice crying out over the noise. We are not broken. We are not slaves. The hunters faltered. Their prey was no longer prey. Humanity, and the survivors pressed harder, cutting through the swarm like fire through dry grass. But the price was high. Soldiers fell, screams echoed. Blood stained the tunnels. Elias staggered, his wound reopening, but he refused to stop. Every time he faltered, Leora was there, pulling him forward, refusing to let him fall. At last, light broke through the smoke. The tunnel opened to the surface. The ash-filled sky greeted them with fire, but beyond it, human shuttles descended, weapons blazing, clearing the path. They had made it. The survivors collapsed in the ash, sobbing, gasping for breath. Soldiers rushed to evacuate them into shuttles. Elias fell to his knees, too weak to stand. Leora caught him, holding him close, her tears falling on his armor. You will live, she whispered fiercely. I will not let you go. He looked at her, eyes heavy but filled with pride. You were never broken, Leora. You were always more than they said. And then the medics took him, rushing him onto the shuttle. Days later, aboard the human fleet, Elias rested in recovery. His wounds were deep, but his spirit unshaken. He opened his eyes to see Leora sitting beside him, no longer trembling, no longer whispering despair. She smiled through tears. You promised me a future, and now, I believe in it too. His hand reached for hers, their fingers intertwined, and in that moment, she was no longer the girl who begged for death. She was the one who carried life, hope, courage, and destiny. From the ashes of slavery, from the weight of chains, A spark had grown into fire. The girl who once cried, "I am not worth breeding, bury me here," was reborn. And beside humanity, she carried a new future within her, a promise kept, a destiny awakened.